Right now on KGW News, suspicious letters evacuate election offices in the Northwest.
But there are people out there who want to harm the process.
Plus, parents stressed out by the uncertainty of a teacher strike with no end in sight.
It's so unfair to 45,000 families across this city.
And the search for a would-be thief accused of trying to take off in a car with two young kids. Then later,
it's pretty exciting to kick off the holidays this way.
How Portland's living room is getting dressed up for the holidays. Good evening, everyone, and we begin tonight with threats and safety concerns at elections offices across the Northwest. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Mulco. From Eugene to Seattle, investigators say they are dealing with envelopes containing suspicious substances. Catherine Cook is in the newsroom. Catherine, what are local officials telling you?
Well, David, and Clark County elections officials say they have not received any threats or suspicious envelopes, and they're grateful for that. Even so, they're taking extra precautions, knowing they're still dealing with heightened risks after everything that happened today. On Wednesday, workers from elections offices across Washington were evacuated from their buildings. This after employees found suspicious letters in King, Pierce, Skagit, and Spokane counties the morning after Election Day. In Renton and Spokane, investigators say white powder found in envelopes contained trace amounts of fentanyl. No one was injured.
But I can't say that I'm surprised, just because the day and age that we're in right now, we do see a lot of things like this.
In Tacoma, a similar incident. Police say a worker found white powder in an envelope with a note that read, "End the election now." Investigators say that envelope contained baking soda. In all cases, officials said ballots remained secure while employees were evacuated.
It's disheartening. It's disheartening.
Greg Kimsey is Clark County auditor. He says they haven't received any threats. After learning what happened, his team encouraged election workers here to wear protective masks and gloves and use caution while dealing with ballots.
When some citizen out there is making these threatening actions, it cuts to the heart of what we do.
In Eugene, the Lane County Elections Office closed Wednesday because police say a suspect and possibly a threatening letter showed up to the building. Elections officials say they're also dealing with another problem: recruiting and keeping staff. This week, county clerks joined Reed College professors in Salem. They shared a study on county election staffing with lawmakers. One finding suggested elections workers are dealing with a toxic political environment. It noted many workers feel unsafe sharing what they do for a living and why that's causing them to leave.
When we ask why they're leaving, many cite the same things: threats, abuse, and harassment, largely stemming from the false belief that the 2020 election was stolen.
For Kimsey, it's one more reason the Clark County Elections Office will increase security in this building ahead of next year's presidential election.
That there are people out there who want to harm the process.
No word yet on whether the 4 incidents in King, Pierce, Spokane, and Skagit counties were connected in any way. Also, this is not the first time in recent history this has happened up there. King County elections got a letter containing traces of fentanyl back in August during the state's primary. David?
Yeah, I'm shaking my head here, all while trying to do their jobs and protect our constitutional rights. Thanks so much, Catherine. Well, speaking of elections, let's talk politics now with NBC News tonight hosting the 3rd Republican presidential debate, this time in Miami, with former President Donald Trump once again skipping that event. NBC's Alice Barr with the highlights.
In the 3rd Republican presidential debate, a slimmed down 5 candidates aiming to narrow the field even more.
You gave them stuff. I didn't give them anything.
What's your story?
They're trying to knock each other out of the way to become the main challenger to the overwhelming frontrunner, former President Trump.
He owes it to you to be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall.
Anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country.
Mr. Trump again choosing to skip the debate, rallying instead outside Miami.
Florida, great state. We love to be with you.
Foreign policy featuring prominently in the first debate since the start of the Israel-Hamas war.
You don't respond to an enemy and a terrorist with fear, you respond with strength. When you do that, that's when the world pays attention, and that's when Iran stops.
As President of the United States, my foreign policy is simple. You cannot negotiate with evil. You have to destroy it.
Ukraine aid, another key topic. And on China.
And we have to declare economic independence from our enemy.
The rivals zeroing in on the economy.
Everything involving Bidenomics, I'm going to rip it up and I'm going to throw it in the trash can.
We are going to unleash every bit of American energy.
The candidates all grappling with Tuesday night's election results that brought big wins for Democrats, centered on abortion rights.
Let's focus on how to save as many babies as we can and support as many moms as we can and stop the judgment.
A night focused on the issues with the first primary contest fast approaching.
There were a few deeply personal attacks on stage, though overall the debate really did stick to substantive issues. Unclear, though, if any of the candidates answered the big question, why Republican voters should vote for them instead of former President Trump. In Miami, Alice Barr, NBC News.
So our Verified team listened very closely and fact-checked some of the candidates' claims, including some around Social Security. When candidates were asked if they'd raise the retirement age, DeSantis said no, in part because he said life expectancy is actually going down. So we can verify that is true. CDC data shows it's gone down 2 years in a row. The average American now lives 76.4 years. That's the lowest number since 1996. But that does not mean seniors are dying sooner. If more young people die, the overall expectancy goes down. And that's happened in part because of COVID-19 and the opioid epidemic. In another claim, Nikki Haley said Social Security will go bankrupt in 10 years. We can verify that's actually false. Social Security is primarily funded by payroll taxes. As long as the government keeps collecting those taxes, it cannot go bankrupt. But it is possible benefits could be reduced. There's now more going out of the program than coming in from payroll taxes. The government's been dipping into a surplus fund to cover the difference. But when that is depleted, Social Security will only be able to fund about 75% of the current benefits. You can read more from our debate fact check. It's up for you now on KGW.com. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, we're going to start in Portland, where police say a suspect in 2 shootings has now been found dead. He's accused of first shooting a man on North Portland Road in the St. John's neighborhood last night around 6:30. The victim died at the hospital. 15 minutes later, police say the same suspect shot and wounded another man on Northeast MLK and Russell. Investigators say the suspect and both victims are from the Ethiopian immigrant community, and there was concern there could have been additional targets. Police found the suspect in a vehicle in Northwest Portland around 9:30 last night. They say he died of an apparent suicide. In Salem, authorities are looking for the man they say tried to steal a car with 2 young children inside. This was at 8 this morning at the 7-Eleven on Lancaster Drive Southeast and Durbin Avenue. A 2-year-old and 5-year-old were in the vehicle. Sheriff's deputies say their mother was nearby and scared off the would-be thief. They say a silver vehicle picked up the suspect and drove off. Anyone with information is asked to call the Marion County Sheriff's Office. And the union that represents tens of thousands of film and TV performers has reached a tentative deal with studios on a new contract. SAG-AFTRA says the strike, which has run since July, will end at 12:01 tonight. Members still need to vote to ratify the agreement, and the details have not yet been made public. We should note KGW anchors and reporters are members of SAG-AFTRA, though our work as journalists is covered by a separate local agreement. Well, tonight, as the Portland teacher strike stretches into a second week, we're learning that classes are once again canceled on Thursday, with the union and district appearing to buckle down when it comes to bargaining. Alma McCarty with the update.
One day longer, one day stronger. That's how many Portland Public Schools teachers view another day of striking. Wednesday's afternoon march leading to a rally outside of the convention center in Northeast Portland. That's where we asked the vice president of the teachers union what sticking points remain and what's being done to find a deal.
Our main focus right now is planning time, class size, and cost of living increase. As far as specifics, I'm not a member of the bargaining team, so I can't really comment on what we're willing to let go.
The union's bargaining team and the district remain in mediation, with plans to meet in person Thursday. Some PPS parents find the uncertainty of the situation frustrating.
I mean, I think it's so unfair to 45,000 families across this city sitting in the balance waiting for a text message at 7 p.m. each night. That's not fair to anyone to have to live in the unknown. And the fact that they're putting all of these families through this unknown each day, it's heartbreaking, to be honest.
Mike Barron has 2 children in the district. He says he's grateful for his kids' teachers and believes what they want from the district is fair. However, he wonders if the students can return and soon, while negotiations continue.
Maybe the teachers could get back in the classroom and we can continue to work on whatever the questions are or whatever the needs that they're asking for need to be resolved.
PAT's VP, Jackie Dixon, had this to say in response.
Yeah, that's understandable. I hear them. I want them to know that we hear their concerns, and that's just not how labor works. So, we did a lot of work for the past year bargaining, and it's unfortunate that the PPS management and their bargaining team didn't really take things seriously until it was too late.
Alma McCarty reporting there. Stay with KGW for continuing coverage of the Portland teacher strike as long as it lasts. You can find regular updates right here online at kgw.com and on the KGW app. You are watching KGW News, and straight ahead at 11 on this Wednesday, an extra special and extra large downtown delivery. And why a local brewery says it's closing up locations and selling the company.
I'm Matt Zaffino. It turned into a beautiful afternoon. There's sunset from our camera in the Dalles and the Oregon Veterans Home going down on the north side of Mountain Hood. The issue tonight is fog. It's getting thick out there. We'll show you the visibilities, and we've got rain coming in after that. And the weekend will provide some dry time.